Lee then entered the house as quietly as he could. It wouldn't have mattered how he would have entered inside. It was very loud. He could hear the toddler's cries and the man ranting. Lee went in the direction of the yelling and crying. You, you have no idea how I feel. You don't know my suffering, but now you will. A man's voice was heard. Lee got closer and closer to the voice in the living room. He then heard a pained groan, which was followed by a man shouting, "Where's the rest of your group? There are those bastards that left my family to starve." "I don't know what you're talking about," a hoarse voice replied. It was Vince. "That's a frickin' lie, and you know it," the man hissed. Lee then peered out from the hallway to see Vince in the chair. He was strapped in the chair with an unknown man in front of him. It appeared to be torturing Vince. Lee huffled and went for his handgun, only to end one way in the flash. He pulled out his handgun, fired the bullet in the unknown man's head. The man's body fell to the ground. The two toddlers cried from the gunshot as Lee went over to get Vince out from the chair. As he ran over, he noticed Katja and Duck were injured. Duck was in the worst condition. It appeared that he had been shot in the abdomen, while Katja was bleeding from her arm. "Lee, good timing," Vince said. Lee sighed and said, "Not good enough. Is everyone else all right?" "Physically, yes," Diana said with a frown. "Emotionally, no." Lee then cut the straps that kept Vince on the chair. He groaned as he got up. "You must want to take it easy, man. You don't look so good." Vince huffed and said, "I know." He then looked around and said, "Where's everyone else?" "Crawford's got two of them," Lee said. He noticed Diana's eyes widened when he mentioned Crawford. "Crawford?" Vince said. He then looked to Diana and said, "Do you know about this guy since you mentioned him?" "Yes," Diana said. "Crawford oversees a community I was at." She then looked over at Duck and Katja before turning to Clementine, who was whimpering in her arms. "Baby, I need you to go to Lee for a little bit. I have to help Katja." "No!" Clementine exclaimed. "I'm sorry, but you'll have to," Diana said. "I have to help Duck." She managed to give Clementine to Lee before she went over to Katja, much to Clementine's dismay. "Don't worry, I'll take over. I was a doctor before all this." Katja was still worried but nodded. "Put some pressure on the wound." She grabbed her backpack and Diana then gestured Katja to follow her to the two women upstairs with Duck. Lee bobbed the baby girl in his arms, hoping to soothe her. "Whoa, I didn't think I would ever seen babies again," Molly said as she approached Lee. "I'm guessing you're the dad?" "Not exactly," Lee said, "but I've been looking after her since day one." Clementine's whimpering ceased, and then she looked at Molly, who smiled at her. "She's a cutie. I'm sure you'll spoil her rotten," Molly said. "Isn't that what you're supposed to do at this age?" Lee asked. Molly scoffed and she said, "Yeah, if you want to end up with a little monster by the age of 5. "Touchy," Lee said. He then continued to bob the girl in his arms, who seemed to be calming down. He looked over at Vince, who managed to calm Danielle down. "So what the heck happened here?" Lee said. "I don't know," Vince said. "He just came in here and started waving a gun around. We were completely off guard." He made a gesture to the dead man on the ground. "Before I knew it, he shot Katja and Duck and started to make demands. He kept saying that his family died because of us." Lee said. What is it?" Vince asked. "Do you remember when our group went to the St. John's and came back with all that stuff?" Lee said. "Yeah, I remember. Why?" Vince said. "You remember that what Wyatt told us? That vehicle they took had foods and supplies and it was a Volkswagen? There was a Volkswagen outside right now. I think it might be the same person we robbed from," Lee said. "That is nuts," Vince said. "Wyatt said that they left half of the food and supplies." "I guess that wasn't enough," Lee said. "Damn it, we should have done something. Could have prevented all of this," Vince said. "That bad word," Danielle said. "Sorry," Vince said. "We should probably go upstairs. The girls shouldn't have to see that." "I can keep an eye on them," Krista said. Vince nodded and he said, "Thank you." The toddlers were less fussy now and they were willing to let Krista look after them. Krista took them in her arms and then went upstairs so that the rest of the group could talk. "Alright, so what happened out there?" Vince asked. "I thought you, Kenny, Bud, and Chuck were on your way to get a boat." "And who's this?" "The name's Molly," Molly said. "Your friends got too close to Crawford." She turned to Lee and said, "You're very lucky you escaped." "So what's Crawford all about?" Ben asked. "Well, it's a community full of assholes," They think it's survival of the fittest. Anyone who won't or can't abide those rules either get killed or removed. But, Molly said, I try to keep my distance away from them. Damn it, and you're telling me that Bud, Kenny, and Chuck were caught by those guys? Vince asked. Lee shook his head. Worse. 2 of them were caught. 1 of them is dead, Lee said. Vince was shocked to see this. I can't believe this. We have to get them back, Lee said. Are you crazy? There's only a few of us. Crawford has like a whole army of mindless idiots at his disposal. I didn't say it was going to be easy, Lee said. I can't just do nothing. They've got my brother. Lee, we need to think this through. We don't have enough people. I'm pretty beaten. Katja barely knows how to hold a gun. And we have 2 toddlers and an injured kid with us, Vince said. I know, but who knows what those crazy assholes are going to do to them, Lee said. I know, Vince said. I could have done anything to keep my brother safe, but we have to be smart about this. He then turned to Molly and said, How many mindless idiots does Crawford have? Molly thought for a second before she replied. There's about 40 or so. There's people within this group that aren't completely loyal to him. Why is that? Lee asked. Well, some people he has are parents, Molly said, and they aren't too happy with Crawford forcing their kids to leave. Are? Omid asked. Molly looked up at him and she said, I mean, were anyway. They don't really like the rules that Crawford forced on them, but they were too nervous to do anything about it. Anytime someone doesn't want to follow the rules, it usually gets them killed. So we could get some help from the inside? Lee asked. Molly sighed and she said, Maybe if we don't die first. Crawford is well armed. We'll die before even we get closer to them. There's gotta be a way, Lee said. We can't just leave him to die. He contemplated on a new plan for a few minutes, but he couldn't think of anything. Molly sighed and broke the silence when she said, I don't know what to tell you. I think you should just cut your losses while you still can. Everyone was surprised to see this. You gotta be kidding me, Vince said. We can't just give up on them, Ben said. Ain't no way I'm doing that to Bud. I left him already once, and I'm not leaving him again, Lee said. The older man and the teenager nodded. Look, damn it, fine. I may have a way to help you guys, but I really don't want to do it, Molly said. What do you mean? Vince asked. She sighed and said, All those kids there in Crawford tossed aside some of those people who have medical problems are safe. They're immourned right now, and they used to be an old bomb shelter. It was a simple routine. I would go out, scrounge up supplies, and try to make as much noise as possible. Why? Lee said. So she could cover for me, Diana said. Lee then walked the group over to the woman, but she approached them. While Molly created a distraction for Crawford and his man, I would grab the medicines for the people who need it. The system worked for a while, but I then got caught last time. I had to kill my assistant to make a run for it away from Crawford. I see, and that's when we found you, Vince said. That's right, Diane said, and I don't want to get them involved, but a couple of people in that group knows the sewers inside out. Perhaps I can go talk to those members. We could use the sewers to get to Crawford. Is this actually possible? Omid asked. It seems that way, Lee said. All right, the rest of us will get ready. I'll go with you. I'll watch your back, Molly said. Diana nodded before she looked at Lee. Lee, words can't express how thankful that I am for you looking after my daughter all this time. I want to make you a promise. If I don't survive, promise me that you'll continue to look after her. Don't say that you're all that she's got left, Lee said. You will make it. Diana frowned and said, Life's not a guarantee anymore. I wish I didn't have to talk that way, but just promise me, okay? Lee sighed and said, I promise. Good, thank you, Diana said. She then turned to look at Molly and said, I need to say goodbye to my daughter. I'll be ready to go after that. Okay, take your time, Molly said. Okay, thank you, Diana said. She and Lee went upstairs to find Clementine. How's Duck doing? Lee asked. Hard to tell. Katja and I stopped the bleeding, but he has a weak pulse, Diana said. Is there anything we can do? Lee asked. Diana shook her head and said, Just let him rest for now. He might feel better in a couple of days. Lee then nodded and they checked the rooms until they arrived at one of the doors and opened it. They saw Krista with both Danielle and Clementine in her arms. The two toddlers were fast asleep with pacifiers in their mouths. Krista looked and smiled at the two. Diana walked over to Krista and picked up Clementine. The two, she carried the toddler over to the bed and kissed her forehead. "Goodbye, baby girl. I got to go help my friends right now." "You be good," Diane whispered. She then placed the toddler on the bed while Krista placed Danielle next to Clementine. Then they made their way out of the room. "How was it?" Lee asked Krista. Krista huffed and said, "Babysitting them was not easy, but decided to make it into a game of me chasing me up there." "I thought I heard some squealing and giggling," Diana said with a smirk. "Yeah, I went along with it until they wore themselves out," Krista said. "I then grabbed them and started to read one of those baby books to them. Soon enough, they were already asleep." You did such a good job looking after them," Diana said. "Thanks," Krista said, as she went towards the stairs. "You're welcome," Diana said. She then looked over to Lee and said, "Before I forget, I already fed Clementine. She had some peaches for lunch." "Okay, thanks for letting me know," Lee said. "You're welcome," Diana said, and they reached to the bottom of the stairs. Lee watched as Krista entered the living room to join Omid, Vince, and Ben while Diana went over to Molly. "I'm ready. Let's go." "Okay, stay close to me," Molly said. Diana nodded before they leave the house with Molly. Lee went into the living room to look over the body on the ground. "Anyone want to help me with this?" Lee asked. He was surprised when Ben got up and said, "Yeah, I'll help." "Thanks, kid," Lee said. The teenager nodded and helped Lee carry the dead body outside. "What should we do with it?" Ben asked. Lee then shook his head and said, "I don't know. I never really knew this guy. We usually burn the dead and anyone we didn't know or care about." He recalled doing this back at the Motor Inn in Macon. "Can't exactly burn him. We might set the house on fire by accident. There's not enough walkers out there to get rid of him that way." He noticed Ben shudder. "You okay, Ben, kid?" Ben just shook his head and said, I never want that to happen to me. Being eaten alive." Lee gave the teenager a sympathetic look before he said, "I understand, kid. Don't worry. We're going to do everything we can to keep you safe. Thanks, I know I'm not always there for you guys, and I did mess up at the Motor Inn in more ways than once," Ben said. "It's okay, kid," Lee said. "Look, we didn't know what was going to happen." Lee then shook his head and huffed. "It's my fault, Lee. Everything," Ben said. He huffed again before looking over to Lee. "I was the one giving bandits supplies. I am so sorry, Lee." Lee then looked at Ben with a horrified stare. You put everyone in danger. We could have died, Ben," Lee exclaimed. "I know, I'm sorry. I wish I could take it all back," Ben said. He seemed to be shaking. Lee huffed to calm himself down and said, "Just why? Why would you do this?" I thought so I could protect you guys. Even if I gave them what they wanted, they would leave us alone. But when Wyatt found it, it all fell apart," Ben said. "I never meant to betray the group. I swear." Lee sighed and he said, "All right, kid, I get you were trying to protect us, but Ben, you should have talked to one of us at the very least. We could have taken action to prevent the attack." I wanted to, but I didn't think anyone would listen to me," Ben said. "I won't ever do it again. I swear." "I'm gonna hold you to that," Lee huffed before he said, "We'll talk more about this later. But right now, we need to take care of this guy." "Okay," Ben said with a frown. Lee then walked over to the backyard for any shuffles. Burying the man was their only option. Upon seeing none, he went over to the shed. He huffed as he tried to open the shed doors. It appeared that the doors were stuck. After a few yanks, he finally pried it open. However, he wasn't ready for what was inside. "Holy shit," Lee muttered. What is it?" Ben asked. "It's a boat," Lee said, as he stared at the large, white boat at the shed. Ben got closer and looked in the shed. "Whoa, what are we going to do?" Ben asked. I'll talk it over with the group," Lee said. He then grabbed a few of the shovels. "In the meantime, we got some digging to do." "Okay," Ben said. He and Lee proceeded on digging up the grave for the unknown man. After burying the man, they went back inside. "Thanks for the help, Ben," Lee said. "No prob. It was at least I can do," Ben said. He rubbed the back of his neck in a nervous manner. Could you keep what I told you a secret? I'm afraid what you guys won't want me to stay, knowing what I did. Yeah, I'll keep it a secret until you're ready. But you will have to tell everyone what happened eventually, Lee said. Ben nodded and he said, I know. Then he walked away as Omid entered the room. So job's done? Omid asked. Please tell me you got rid of that body as far away from here as possible. Lee shook his head and said, No, we buried him in the backyard. Well, that sucks. He's gonna start to haunt me now, Omid said. He'll be our resident ghost. I wonder if we can start charging him for rent. Lee scoffed and he said, I don't know, Omid. How exactly is he going to pay us rent? That's a good point. Damn it, we won't be able to force him to leave for not paying in rent since we can't touch him, Omid said with a disgruntled look on his face. Who would have thought that having a resident ghost was going to suck? Lee chuckled and said, Well, I guess we'll find out. By the way, I found something in the shed in the backyard that may be useful. Oh, can you go get Vince? Sure, Omid said. What did you find? A boat, Lee replied. Omid's eyes widened and he said, Nice, dude. I bet our resident's ghost will get an upgrade. He just started to walk away while Lee shook his head. He'll go from being a resident ghost to a ghost pirate. That's so much better. It's badass. Our neighbors are going to be so jealous. Well, my pretties, that was 16 chapters of Tender Moments, a Walking Dead, Telltale Walking Dead fanfiction written by WalkingDeadRox. Yeah, this story, I actually been meaning to read this one back sometime in 2022, like, after I got permission from the author to narrate this story. I actually found the opportunity to actually narrate it. So, anyway, with that being said and that being the case, I personally thought this was a pretty interesting story. Like, it's an alternative way of how the gameplay is. You know, some characters being killed off, some characters are stuck around longer than others. It honestly is like an alternative version of the game of how, well, not really just game, but like a storyline of the Telltale series. Now, I know it's not really completed right now, but of course, the author did say, you know, that they've been in a long hiatus with the story, and I did ask if it was okay if I narrate this story on my channel, and then, yeah, they said I can narrate it, so, yeah, finally have been able to narrate it, so, yeah, I honestly thought it was a pretty good story, so, I can't really say what else is gonna happen, but yeah, I'm hoping to hear more of this story, like maybe we get updates on more chapters to it, so I'm not going to give the full reign of the whole story because it's not completed, but I will say right now that it's a pretty good story so far for what it is. Now, if this gets updated, the story gets updated in the future, like a couple more chapters updated in the future, yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on that, so that's something I can really say. I haven't done a Walking Dead story in a while since Fight for Survival. That one was a really fun story I did. It was a fun one. But anyways, yeah, I mean, the fact that, you know, it's an alternative universe where Clementine's a toddler, I mean, I actually like that concept, you know, I thought it was really nice to have Clementine as a young toddler and Lee looking after her and all. I mean, it's really nice. I mean, yeah, I know this is not canon to The Walking Dead because we know Clementine's a kid in the season 1 and she grows up to, I think, 17, 18, maybe 16 in season 4. But yeah, for those who are Walking Dead fans of Telltale, you'll probably like this story. And there is a link to the story in the description, so you guys can go check out the story if you like. Also, I want to say to WalkingDeadRox, thank you so much for letting me narrate this story. Despite that there was a few grammatical errors in the story, I understand that it was an older one, so that's an exception. Although I can really say it's still a fun story. It was still readable. I was able to read this story. It's a fun one, and I guarantee that anyone who is a Walking Dead fan will pretty much like this story. Anyways, yeah. If this story gets updated with more chapters, I will be sure to narrate those on my channel. But anyways, what did you guys personally think of this story so far? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what I've done personally to help make the story a lot better, feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm not going to give a rating of this story yet because it's not completed, so yeah. But I could say it's a 10 out of 10 so far as I'm reading it goes, because if this story does get an update, more chapters being posted or whatever, I'll be sure to narrate those. Anyways, what did you guys think? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I am the Lion Queen. I want to thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you're new to my channel, feel free to leave this video a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video. Peace out. And like always, please roll the outro because I'm out.